Hello and welcome to this special radio town hall meeting against corruption by the Progressive Impact Organization for Community Development, PRIMORC. I am Adaobi Obiabumo, the program manager at PRIMORC. PRIMORC is a civil society organization working to promote good governance, participation and accountability in Nigeria. This town hall meeting against corruption has the support of the MacArthur Foundation. Today's program has brought together resource persons who will review the anti-corruption efforts of the outgoing President Muhammadu Buhari's administration since 2015, while setting anti-corruption agenda for the incoming administration. For you listening out there, please remember that you are part of this meeting. You can watch us live on Facebook at Official PRIMORC. The spelling of PRIMORC is PRIMORG. We will give you the phone numbers to reach us in the course of the deliberations. Corruption is considered as Nigeria's #1 public enemy, and according to a survey by Yaga Africa, endemic corruption has cost Africa's most populated country over $580 billion between 1960 to 2021. Past administration had come up with different methods and leveraged on various institutions to fight corruption, which led to the advent of anti-graft agencies like the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission (ICPC) and the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission (EFCC). The outgoing administration made anti-corruption a top priority right from the onset, reaffirming its commitment to reform criminal justice. But 8 years after, it is a common perception that corruption still pervades all levels of government, causing massive strain on public resources. Besides these agencies, instruments like the Treasury Single Account (TSA), Whistleblower Policy, Integrated Personnel and Payroll Information System (IPIS), and Bank Verification Number (BVN) are tools to assist the government in fighting corruption. But the result on ground remains dissatisfying. As the President's Buhari-led administration bows out in about 72 hours, the ball is now in the court of the President-elect, Bola Ahmed Tinubu. The incoming administration must be aware and ready to improve Nigeria's corruption ranking, which is abysmally low. The incoming government must realize that Nigeria is projected to lose 30% of its gross domestic product (GDP) to corruption if nothing is done urgently. And besides the president, who leads the executive arm of the government, the legislature and the judiciary must be above board in the discharge of their constitutional duties for our dear nation to stem the tide of corruption to a reasonable point. Expectedly, agencies like the Code of Conduct Bureau and other sister anti-corruption agencies must step up their game. Citizens are not also left out. Hence, they must understand that as little as violating traffic rules with impunity is corruption. For you out there, what is your assessment of the anti-corruption fight under the outgoing administration, and what change would you like to see going forward? How can the incoming government sustain what is good and avoid the pitfalls? What lessons must the incoming government learn from the outgoing one in the fight against corruption? You can send your views to 0902-265-6167. My guests are eager to weigh in on the discussion, and I have joining me in the studio Lukman Adefolahun, Chief Operating Officer, 21st Century Community Empowerment for Youth and Women Initiative, media consultant and activist, Princess Halima Jibril, Tochukwu Ohazurike, Director, Legal and Documentation, Center for Transparency Advocacy. You are all welcome to the program. If you just tuned in, this is a town hall meeting. We are reviewing the anti-corruption efforts by the outgoing federal government while setting the anti-corruption agenda for the incoming one. And you are right on time as the deliberations are about to begin. My guests are passionate and very experienced. Allow me to introduce to you again Lukman Adefolahun, the Chief Operating Officer, 21st Century Community Empowerment for Youth and Women Initiative. You're welcome to the program, Lukman.
Thank you very much for having me.
So what is your assessment of the fight against corruption, and where did we miss the mark as a nation in the last 8 years?
Thank you. I think from your background, you said there is need for us to review the anti-corruption effort of the outgoing government. I doubt if we need that because there is somehow late. Reviewing it now may not have some impact, but maybe we talk on the area where we have improvement as a nation and also lessons learned why this outgoing administration failed Nigerians to meet up.
Well, that's still part of being that's
corruption.
Part of it.
So basically, I would say the government tried their effort. I think citizens now have opportunity to key into the fight against corruption. Where they've done well, if you look at issue around asset recovery, we can't take that away from them. Management and utilization of the asset recovered may be our problem because for the government to sign the Proceeds of Crime and Management Law took a lot of time, so which dragged the issue. And consistently, the CPI of Nigeria has not improved under this administration. Under this administration, National Anti-Corruption Strategy was adopted, also extended after the lapse of the first NACS. But unfortunately, resources were not mobilized for the lead agencies to do enough on the implementation of National Anti-Corruption Strategy. Also, if you look at issue around the key recommendations from the two United Nations Convention against Corruption, UNCAC review process, we had 2 reviews under this administration. The review spelled out about 56 recommendations.
And how far have we fared with the recommendations?
Government tried to implement about 36 out of that 56 recommendations. We still have about 20 not attended to. So I would say major problem of this government around the issue of fighting corruption is dwell around uncoordinated effort among the anti-corruption agencies. As part of the recommendation during the review process, it was stated that in Nigeria we have interagency rivalry.
I was going to ask you to expand on the uncoordinated efforts.
Because we have a lot of interagency rivalry among anti-corruption agencies. They may be telling us that they are working together, but in the recent they are not working together, and that is why you see that ICPC will go to court to prosecute a case with government resources. EFCC will also go to court to prosecute cases with the same government resources. So why not EFCC and ICPC and other anti-corruption agencies coordinate their effort with their legal team and go as one organization? Because the objective of spending is to get results. So we do a lot of duplication in terms of what we are doing. And I give you an example. They will use some technicality to tell you that there's no between what Special Control Against Money Laundering is doing and what Nigeria Financial Intelligence Unit are doing. But if you look at their mandate, very similar. Is there a way we can collapse? If you look at the report of the Orosaye report, if we want to get it right, which will be where we expect this new government to take action, can they go back? After 10 years or 11 years or thereabout, outgoing government just set up committee to look into what Orosaye report recommended after 10 years. It shows we are not serious as a nation that's ready to fight corruption.
So on a scale of 1 to 10, what would be your score for this outgoing administration?
I will give them 3 over 10.
3 over 10. Okay, thank you so much for that. Let's shift to Princess Halima Jibril, who is a media consultant and an activist. Would also want to know if she would score the outgoing administration 10 or she would give them a higher pass mark. So how can the media stay on the issues and create more awareness of national issues without suppression or encumbrances?
I'm indeed glad to be part of this topical discussion. Topical in the sense that the administration that is outgoing is not new to governance. Neither is the administration head a newbie in governance. He was the former head of state, former ministers, even as a president of Nigeria, is still a minister of NNPC. So I would have expected more to be done in the key sectors that he campaigned with that brought him into power, one of which is anti-corruption. And being a general in the army and a former head of state, more needed to be seen from him that he's doing that were not done. So for the civil society and the media, what the civil society research into is what they actually discuss. And the media also set agenda. And if a regime is corrupt, it's not an hidden fact, because the media will project what they see, and they will discuss what they have seen. And if there is no rejoinder, they will conclude on what they have seen and what they have discussed. So for this regime, I don't think I will have to score them up to 3%.
Wow.
Yes.
So that's below 3 from
yes,
the result is gradually diminishing from 3 to below 3. So what else do you think the media can do to assist the government, or what do you think the media can do to assist the government in the fight against corruption, in as much as you said that you would score the government below 3%?
As a journalist and as a member of NUJ and Nigerian Association of Women Journalists and a civil society person, the Information Act is not being obeyed in the federal cycle. So it hinders the amount of information that both the media, civil society, and even citizens have access to. Okay, where a matter happens and you know that as a fourth estate of the realm, and civil society activism is a global thing. A country is not judged by what it wants itself to be judged on. A country is judged based on global indicators that apply to every other country in the world. So the bar will not be lower because we are in Nigerian and it's Nigerian government. So if anything happens pertaining to corruption and the media and the civil society knows about it, whether by whistleblowing, deliberate effort of research, and doing the underground journalism, investigative journalism work, and the agency involved is not quick or even at all not coming out to say anything about it, and then what do you judge them by? You judge them by what is streaming on both the conventional media and the online media that every citizen now, even our mothers in the village, have access to. And that is what we go around about that topical issue.
In 1 minute, how would you assess the environment this administration provided for the media to execute their constitutional mandate? Did the current administration stifle the media in any way?
Absolutely. In the sense that besides the outage that visits the media whenever matters like this arise, the NBC, which is the regulator that I feel have been recently tamed by a court process that it cannot be a judge in its own affairs, it's always like a war zone. Because you cannot tame the media in democracy. Media is recognized constitutionally as the fourth estate of the realm that equally will earn its respect based on the environment that it is operating in. So what I'm saying in essence is that yes, the media was gagged. The media was put on the spot for things that most of them at the end of the day came to the fore to prove the media right. Media was fined just for doing their job. and in most cases selective. For the private media that I've worked with all my life for close to 27th year now, and for the government sector, that when a matter arises that affect both media, like what we saw in the electioneering towards the presidential election and others, some media will be gagged and fined, and others will be left alone. So if you use the same yardstick to judge all of us in the media, you will know that some were deliberately hounded, and whereas others were just deliberately left because the government felt that, yes, they represented us well.
Thank you for that submission. But I want to quickly say that the EFCC secured over 2,220 convictions in 2021. And in 2022, the same commission also secured over 3,328 convictions, while the ICPC secured over 672 convictions in 2022 and recovered 117 billion naira as proceeds of crime. So you initially said that you would score the administration 3. There's another anti-graft agency that so many people don't remember, which is the Code of Conduct Bureau. Now that there's an incoming administration, Code of Conduct Bureau is saddled with the responsibility of asset declaration, documenting the assets declared by public officers. What would you want to see differently? I know there's submissions from other people that assets declared before public officers assume office should be compared with their assets when they are leaving office. What do you have to say about that?
Yes, I think is an area that I want to see the incoming government to really strengthen it. And I'm happy you mentioned that there is an agency of government saddled with that responsibility that many people are not even aware, which is very unfortunate. And that is Code of Conduct Bureau. You know, is the mother of all anti-corruption agencies, as well as Office of Auditor General for the Federation. So I want to see incoming government to work closely with that agency, empower them technically, financially, because if we want them to work effectively, there is need for government to empower them in terms of resources. If you go to their office, you will pity them. Code of Conduct Bureau. And if you want them to work effectively, there is need for government to give them enough resources to work with. And on asset declaration, which is one of their mandates, asset declaration is just one out of the ethics. They have about 14 codes that they are working with, but it's that one that is very popular out of what they are doing. Now, there is a process before the National Assembly, which I doubt if that will see the light of the day under this administration. National Assembly still have time till maybe June 11 or thereabout before the 10th Assembly will come on board. It will be nice if that bill pending before them can be signed. It will really empower them to do their work rightly. Also, it is high time the Code of Conduct Bureau should go digitalized on asset declaration. A situation whereby political office holders, public servants can sit down at the comfort of their homes and fill the form, upload it. And what do we want to see from the amendment to their law is access of the public to those forms, because as artists now, you can't, as Nigerian, access the information on the asset declaration form of any public officer, except if you wish, like a late President Yaradua did and former Executive Secretary of Neiti did. They declared and published. Apart from those two people, I don't think we have seen any Nigerian politician that demonstrated that. So we want to see where CCB will digitalize their operations. So
do you want also to see a situation where a public service is exiting office, the CCB would also investigate his assets to ensure if he has more assets when he's leaving compared to when he assumed office?
Yeah, that is the normal thing to do. not just to fill the form. When you fill the
and
form,
also make it public.
when you fill the form, the next thing to do is for them to investigate. Then Madam mentioned something around issue of whistleblowing, because we don't have access to what they are submitting. For example, if my neighbor should be appointed a minister of Federal Republic and he filled this form, probably maybe he didn't even mention 2 properties, for example, I won't have access to that document. I won't know. I won't be able to even blow the whistle.
Okay.
So now what we are saying now is there is need for that provision to be tampered with, amended, and make it to be accessible to Nigerians. Once we have it, or we want to see the politician to demonstrate that political will by making it available to Nigerians. So that when you are leaving, we can be able to now measure what has happened. If you have owned 3 buildings before in Abuja, and when you are leaving, you are now having buildings in Dubai, you are having it in London, we should be able to now ask you, can you now explain this within the salary and other allowances you are getting? Okay. That is when we get it right.
All right, thank you. Like you said, if the politicians will willingly do that, I wonder how many of them will do that. But joining us also is Tochukwu and Barrister Tochukwu Hazurike. He's the Director, Legal and Documentation at Center for Transparency Advocacy. You're welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
So from a policy viewpoint, what is your assessment of the outgoing government, and what are those policies of the government that defined the administration's fight against corruption?
Thank you very much. My assessment of the anti-corruption fight of the outgoing government is that it was just a mantra that the party used to win elections. After that, it ended there. This may sound harsh, but that is what the facts say. What are the facts? When the president came in, he stayed about 6 months before he appointed his ministers, right? You remember that in 2015. And during the Senate screening of those ministerial nominees, it was raised on the floor of the Senate that there was a minister nominee who said he earned 50 million naira in his tax clearance certificate that he submitted to the Senate, but that he paid only 50,000 naira tax. If the president had wanted to do anti-corruption, that was the day he would have written a letter to the Senate asking them to withdraw the guy's screening. But he left him, and the guy served as a minister of the Federal Republic, and nobody raised that issue, despite the fact that the Senate raised it. That was the day the anti-corruption fight started and ended, during ministerial screening in 2015. Because if you have shown capacity to say that in my cabinet, not just any other appointee, but an appointee that is supposed to be in the cabinet of the president, that if you do any act of corruption, there will be instant consequences. Others would have taken a lesson from that. But because the president allowed it, and the young man served his term fully as a minister, and it ended in 2019, that shows you that the president condoned and condones corruption from people around his circle. Now, what policies defined the anti-corruption of the administration? There were really no policies, except that those policies were put out there in the media to use to get attention, attraction of sympathy from the people and maybe foreign partners. You remember he was given anti-corruption champion in Africa, right? So those are just the essence of those anti-corruption wars.
But we have the whistleblower policy.
Oh, what's the start? Okay, if there is a policy, there should be mechanism for measuring the output the policy has given. So if I ask you now as a journalist, what's the outcome? What will you say? You don't have it, because it was just put out there. Now let me give you an example. Let's go back to the CCB. What CCB does not have, the Code of Conduct Bureau does not have any access to know that I am the owner of a property on a particular street in Maitama, because there is no digitalization and networking between CCB and Aegis.
How sure are you of that?
There is none. Aegis is only in Abuja now. Aegis is not a Nigerian-wide something. But Aegis is about the best that is working. Maybe say Aegis and then the one in Lagos. But there is no connection between them. So there is no, if it is, there should be a platform where these agencies can migrate. Somebody has declared a form. If you, those forms are secret documents, because the Constitution says that they can only be made public through a means approved by the Senate. People have gone to court. Civil society organizations have gone to court to say that the Freedom of Information Act is that means that has been made by the National Assembly for the Code of Conduct Bureau forms, asset declaration forms, to be made public. But the courts have said no, that in making the Freedom of Information Act, that they were not specific in pointing out that you can also release the asset declaration forms through that means. You understand? So based on that, it's shrouded in secrecy. How many staff do you have at the Code of Conduct Bureau? People do not know that every civil servant from the local government in every of the 774 local government areas, every staff of the state government in the 36 states, every agency of federal government, they are all supposed to declare their assets. These people range in hundreds of thousands in number, and you have just a few hundred, a few thousand staff there. They cannot, particularly because they don't even have platforms that can show property platforms. You can be here in Nigeria and you want to know who owns a particular property on a particular street in America or in London. Just by touching buttons on your computer, you will know the name of the person that owns it, when he bought it, how much he paid for it. But those details are not here. Property transactions in Nigeria are private businesses between the buyer and the seller, and then the next person that knows it is whoever has a lawyer amongst them, and then the agent that connects both parties, and that's all. So until they speak about it, nothing happens. So if you want to grade the anti-corruption, we'll ask you, where is Professor Isesage and his PACAC, the Presidential Advisory Council? Where are they? Not disbanded formally, but they see that the thing is not working. They've gone. Where is Barrister Okoyobla that was doing the presidential this thing, that was chasing around corrupt people? But the time he started touching some politicians, they warned him and they arrested him and took him away from the office.
But PACAC is still functional.
When was the last time you heard PACAC in any news item? Professor Isesage has left Abuja. He's not in Abuja, he's in Edo State.
Functional.
They have a secretariat, it's not functioning. Let's be factual. Let's not, I don't like window dressing or just making it look nice.
No, we are not.
Say it the way it is. PACAC is not functioning. When was the last time you heard a policy statement on anti-corruption by PACAC? At least not this year. This is the last working day of the 5th month of the year. You've not had any policy statement from PACAC.
So how would you then grade the
No, because I'm finding it difficult to grade, because you said between 1 and 10. Now you've limited me to a jurisdiction that I can't find a space within. See, it's in the negative. Do you know why I say it's in the negative? Because the administration made anti-corruption as a standpoint of its campaign when they were coming in 2015. If they had just campaigned like this one that is coming now, that did not make anti-corruption an issue, by all means, they've done good. But because he made it a fulcrum of his campaign, anti-corruption, security, and economy were the tripod of his campaign. Because he did that, then you must hold him to high levels in making sure that there was. Now, check the federal government. You have the executive, you have the legislature, you have the judiciary. In 2016, there was a report that said there was 461 billion naira pardon in the budget, and there should be trials. A court actually said persons that were involved should be tried. There's no trial till as we speak, 7 years after. In 2021, 300 billion naira pardon. Nothing has happened about it. In 2022, 100 billion naira pardon. Nothing has happened about it. The question is, of all the governors that left office in 2019 that started with this president in 2015, who are from his party, none is facing trial for corruption. But before, when PDP was there, as bad as we shouted PDP was, they were charging their members to court. So you see that condoning corruption within your circle and now looking outside to shout. You mentioned about 3,000 convictions from EFCC.
And
Please.
also from ICP.
No, let's look at the 6,000 in 2 years from EFCC. More than 70% of that number is from low-level Yahoo boys. I'm not saying Yahoo is good, but it doesn't solve our problem. It is the problem caused in the public sector corruption that is leading those young boys to do those things they are doing.
So you want to see more conviction?
Yes, if those Yahoo boys concentrate. But do you know why? Let me say it openly. Do you know why? I'm a lawyer. We do those cases. Do you know why they do that? When they get those young boys, those boys are too afraid. They say take, because they believe they will get back to their computers and get another white man to give them money. So they forfeit all those their property. That's why you hear all those convictions. But when you get these big ones,
but we've heard some high-profile cases being tried by the EFCC and the ICPC. Thank you so much, Tochukwu Ohazurike. My guests have not particularly graded this the outgoing administration high. For you out there, what is your perception of the anti-corruption fight of the outgoing administration, and what would you want to see from the incoming administration? Would like you to join the conversation now. Hello.
Hello.
Name and where you're calling us.
My name is Engineer Mike.
Engineer Mike, how can our anti-corruption agencies be made to function optimally?
The anti-corruption agency is a function of the leadership. For them to function, the president has to function too. But the president will have overhyped him, and we have seen the result. He is the most corrupt individual. To learn from his administration, he has failed just like the anti-corruption agency, woefully, and it's shame. Thank you.
The caller said the government failed woefully in their fight against corruption. But like I said earlier, the EFCC secured some convictions. ICPC also did that, in as much as my guest is not too satisfied with the conviction. But we have in the studio a representative from Code of Conduct Bureau. Okay, we have another call. Hello, name and where you're calling us from. Let's hear you in 1 minute. How says the outgoing administration on the fight against corruption?
1 to 10, they scored 0.
Okay, so what would you want to see differently with the incoming administration?
Well, there's no hope with the incoming administration because already you have the leaders of the incoming administration, they are their credentials and their personality for their power. We have seen the cases in the court. We saw what the press published about them. See about the drug convictions abroad and all the rest of them. When the head is rotting, the body cannot function effectively. I think with the anti-corruption case in Nigeria died with Obasanjo's administration, and starting it under this administration will not be possible. Thank you and God bless.
All right, thank you very much. The fight against corruption starts with the leaders. Okwose Michael, who is the Deputy Director of Education Department at Code of Conduct Bureau. Thank you so much for joining us. You have heard people talk about the anti-corruption agencies, that they would not rate them so high. And Code of Conduct Bureau is one of the foremost anti-corruption agencies. We've talked about the issue of asset declaration by government and public officials. So how has the CCB fared in the responsibility, and how much has it helped the government's fight against corruption?
Well, before I go on, I want to talk a bit about the Code of Conduct Bureau. You see, the Code of Conduct Bureau has the power to administer asset declaration on every public officers. And for members of the National Assembly or the politically exposed persons, they have to declare their assets on assumption of office and on leaving office. And for this, there's always 100% compliance, because the inauguration of every member of the National Assembly, the inauguration of every board members in any of the government agencies are done based on the asset declaration they've done with the Code of Conduct Bureau. So Code of Conduct Bureau has failed so much, very well, in its fight against corruption. But our challenge, the challenge we have in the Bureau is our court, the Code of Conduct Tribunal. We carry out investigations, we receive petitions from the public about non-compliance with the Code of Conduct for public officers. We receive complaints about people breaching their provisions, the provision of this code, and after investigation, we refer our cases to the Code of Conduct Tribunal.
What happens afterwards?
But I can tell you, the tribunal is not sitting. It now makes us look as if we're not doing anything. The tribunal is not sitting. That is our major problem.
And have you escalated that?
Yeah, at least the chairman has done a lot to see that the tribunal sits.
Okay,
the chairman has done a lot to see that the tribunal seat. But what is happening before I came to this place, I don't know.
All right, let's take this call. Hello.
Hello.
Name and where you're calling us from.
Yes, my name is Mike.
Mike, how would you assess the outgoing administration on its fight against corruption? I want to see it differently.
This question that you are asking me now, it looks somehow like someone who's playing with my intelligence. If somebody will fight corruption, that should be a master plan. But in this case, there's no master plan. We didn't see, okay, this is how you see, this is how it's going to be. For over the years, corruption has been fighting back because the people there also don't have the willpower. They don't have the willpower to fight it. Them themselves, they are corrupt. It's only when you have the willpower, like you can be able to fight corruption. Because they said who wants to come to justice must have what? Must have a clean hand. Thank you.
Just to reiterate that the president at some point said that if we do not kill corruption, corruption will kill Nigeria. Back to Michael Okwose, you initially said that the tribunal has not sat or it does not sit.
It's
not sitting.
Yes.
So why? What are the challenges? Why is the tribunal not sitting?
Tribunal is a different body from the Code of Conduct Bureau. We carry out whatever investigation we have for any case concerning us, and we refer the case to tribunal. It's our court. We know Code of Conduct don't to refer their case to another conventional court apart from the tribunal. So it is the discretion of the tribunal chairman to sit over our case. But sister, I'm telling you the gospel truth. For some years now, the man hardly sits. There are so many pending cases before the tribunal. So that's why if you talk about conviction now, when you ask me how many convictions I have for some time now, I can't give you any number, any figure, because the tribunal is not sitting. And that is the simple truth.
The tribunal is not sitting. My guest, Tochukwu Hazurike, is smiling.
There are two things. There are two things. When he says, when they receive petitions, I now begin to wonder, how can a person send a petition to the CCB about infractions in a Code of Conduct Access Declaration form when that form is not a public document? So how did the person see that there was an infraction in the form? Look at what happens in that place. If I have an issue with you and I have contacts there, they can now give me your form.
No,
I will invest. I am in this town, and when I speak,
it's not.
And when I speak facts. Just hold on. When I speak, I speak facts. Take me up on it, and I'll prove it to you.
It's not
now. See what they do. How did Onoren go down?
Okay.
How did Onoren go down? That's what happens. Then for the tribunal, that seat of the chairman of the Code of Conduct Tribunal is the most constitutionally protected seat in Nigeria. It is more protected than the seat of the President of the Federal Republic.
Okay,
because two-thirds majority of both chambers of the National Assembly can remove a president. But for that man, 4/5 is what you need, which is a higher threshold. So until there is 4/5 of the National Assembly, and the man stays there for life.
All right, Barrister Tochukwu, let's seek for recommendations and solutions. What would be your advice to the outgoing president? The incoming.
If he has a willpower, let him digitalize that place, CCB, so that those forms can be online for them even to access it. 2, digitalize issues of property, sales and transactions in the entire country. It has to be about the institution. It's not about a person. President Buhari has proved that it is the corruption, anti-corruption is not about a person. The body language of the president.
Okay.
It has to be about institutions.
Thank you so much.
If he doesn't do that, we're going nowhere. And our criminal justice system, something must be done about it. Because if you take somebody who has done corruption to court and the matter stays there for 15 years, 20 years, the witnesses, some of them die, some of them travel, things happen, they forget their facts.
All right, thank you so much, Barrister Tochukwu Hazurike. Of course, Michael,
yes.
Some have actually said that they want I want to know if the Code of Conduct Bureau conducts investigation after public officers exit office to know if they acquired more assets from when they assumed office.
Yes, we carry out verification. We have 2 types of verification: conference verification and field verification. In conference verification, we invite you to come to our office with your documents. we have one-on-one interaction with you. Then at the end, officers will now go out to the field to go and have a physical sighting of those properties you declared. And some of them have been found wanting. And we write our reports and say to the legal department, who now prepare charges against such an officer and forward to the Tribunal. Okay, but madam, I want to point out one thing here, because my friend made mention of leakage of information when he said our officers can release information about any public officer to any person that can give any amount of money.
It's good that you're here. It's not true.
That is not true. Madam, you see, the problem we are having with public officers, particularly the top public officers, is that they find it very difficult to sit down and fill this application form. If you give them the form, they give to their aides to fill for them.
But is this form, is it a secret document?
It's a secret document.
But why is it a secret document?
It's a secret document because it is only after the judge has signed that document, it can be tendered in any legal, any law, any court of justice as an evidence.
So as a citizen, I do not have access to it.
You don't have access to it because the provisions, the constitution says on the fund can only be released to public inspection on such time and conditions as the National Assembly may prescribe. Just I'm speaking to you now, the National Assembly has not prescribed any condition that allow the court of conduct to release that information to the public, even with the Freedom of Information Bill, because there's a clause in that Freedom of Information Act, which says that if you are seeking for information about any person, you must seek the consent of that person. So if you want anything about me, you must seek my consent. I have to say yes, go and collect, or not.
Really? If I must get your consent, how then do I fight corruption?
So that is the problem, because many people have come to court to challenge the code of conduct in that respect.
Okay, this would be another conversation. We need to schedule another time to expand on the conversation. But what would you want the incoming administration to do for the code of conduct?
Yes.
30 seconds, please.
Yes, what I want the incoming administration to do for conduct is to empower us, because we are underfunding. We lack funds to carry out investigation and verification.
What of personnel?
The personnel, we don't have personnel. You don't all amount to funding as well.
Okay.
Because if we have funding, we can recruit more.
All right, thank you so much for that. Okwose Michael, Deputy Director, Education Department, Code of Conduct, Bureau, Abuja. Adefola Lukman, you've just been smiling. In 1 minute, what would be your recommendation or advice to the incoming administration?
Thank you very much, Adobe. I think, if you look at the four of us that we have spoken, we mentioned will a lot. I want to see this government first to set up procurement council. If we have procurement council in place, research has shown to us that most of the corrupt practices in the public sectors are through public procurement process. Let's have council in place. When we have council in place, then let's appropriate enough resources for anti-corruption agencies and Office of Auditor General for the Federation. We are still using.
Do we need to change or repeal the bill or
we are still using
1956
Audit Act in Nigeria. That is pre-colonial. It is very unfortunate. That bill has suffered at the National Assembly at the table of Mr. President. Okay. So we want to see those things. If we can get CCB right, if we get Office of Auditor General right, ICBC and EFCC and others, they will be doing lesser work.
All right, thank you for that. Because of our time, Princess Halima Jibril, what reforms do you need to see as a country to fight corruption better? And what would be your advice to the incoming administration? In 1 minute, please.
Please, let me clarify that I scored this administration less than 2%.
Less than
2? Yes, because the former EFCC boss was removed because of corruption, not tried, not prosecuted, and even promoted. The current one, Abdul Rashid, who took over from him, is even currently enmeshed in corruption saga that over close to how many civil society groups have said he has to resign so that he be tried. He is having altercation now with a sitting governor who said he demanded for bribe, and he has evidence to show for it.
Okay, because
the head is rotten, the body too will be rotten. What I need this incoming government to do, even though it's not a cardinal point in their campaign stratum, is to be holistic. If it's possible to merge all of them, or you expand. What I mean expand is that you give them enough tool to work, the ones that are existing, so that they can do the work. And then for the media and civil society, we will not relent, because we have a duty, the same way all other arms of government have duties. So we have a duty, and they can't stop us from performing our duty, at least our constitutional duties.
Thank you so much. We will not relent. We have a duty, and that is not just the duty of the media or the CSOs, but the duty of everyone listening to me. Nigerians, we have a duty to fix our country. We need to stop corruption, because if you look at the negative consequences of corruption, you would agree with me that we need to do something, and we must do that quickly. We have come to the end of this special radio town hall meeting on anti-corruption. Sincerely appreciate our guests. Okwosa Michael, Deputy Director, Education Department, Code of Conduct Bureau, Abuja. Lukman Adefolahon, Chief Operating Officer, 21st Century Community Development for Youth and Women Initiative. Media Consultant and Activist, Princess Halima Jibril. Tochukwu Ohazurike, Director, Legal and Documentation Center for Transparency Advocacy. If you have a message for us, or you want to react to what you heard on this program, please reach us through 0902-265-6167. That is 0902-265-6167. The Town Hall meeting is supported by the John D. and Catherine T. MacArthur Foundation, committed to building a more just, verdant, and peaceful world. Get more information about the foundation at its website, macfound.org. You will be duly informed when next we have a town hall meeting. Please follow us on all our social media platforms at Official Primorg for timely information on our activities. Visit our news website, primorgnews.org, for all the details of our reports and interviews. Visit our website, www.primorg.org, to get all the information about Primorg. Many thanks to Primorg team for their wonderful work. The executive producer of this town hall meeting is Okiria Agbonsuremi. Don't fail to report corruption when you see it or encounter it in any form. I am Adaobi Obiabumo. Stay safe.